Well, we all know the FBI lost a ton of trust ever since the election, the pandemic, and the targeting of their own American citizens. And now with the Trump administration, people are a little leery to trust the FBI again. They were hopeful with Dan Bongino and Kash Patel coming on. They've both been big vocal critics of the FBI. So now if they're leading the FBI, they're going to whip it into shape, right? But a few people on the right are actually criticizing Dan Bongino this week because he kind of on social media endorsed the same FBI leader who was targeting Catholics, who still has not been let go from the FBI. Dan Bongino was doing his weekly update on social media, reassuring people that he's not in the show me business, he says, or trust me business, but the FBI is doing good work and it takes time to complete some of these things, such as the questions about Epstein that a lot of people have. However, Your News, which is this exciting new website and we're going to talk about, but they shared his reassurances were swiftly overshadowed by controversy after Bongino's official X account retweeted a video from the FBI's Richmond field office featuring Special Agent in Charge Stanley Meter. Meter remains employed despite having overseen the creation of a highly controversial memo that profiled radical traditionalist Catholics, that's what the FBI was calling them, as potential white supremacists and domestic extremists. He retweeted this guy. Not only is this guy still employed at the FBI, but Bongino's sharing his stuff now, and people are like, what is going on? Is Bongino endorsing the guy who was targeting Catholics for their religion? Here to join me is Sam Anthony, who is the creator of yournews.com, the website we were just looking at. Sam Anthony, what is your take on what the heck's going on with the FBI?
Ivory, thank you for having me on your show. I am actually truly excited to be here. We have a lot to talk about, which we discussed, but my take on this is people are frustrated, right? I mean, anybody that's on the right, which represents the bulk of the population, is disgusted with the FBI as an organization. Look, I'm the first one to say we needed to get rid of the whole thing. I personally don't believe that they're needed. That being said, I'm not running the country. And, I have friends of mine that are law enforcement that said, yeah, nothing they do, we can't do. So, so why have them? But I'm not in charge. So what I do know is I share the same frustration as everybody else. They targeted conservatives. They targeted Christians. And that is wrong. So, why Bongino is sharing tweets from this guy out like he likes them, I don't know. Maybe there's an inside story to it. But at the end of the day, I think what everybody's really waiting for is, when are people going to be punished for the crimes that they committed? All these crimes that have happened. And my guess would be, if you actually are looking for the crimes and you actually have crimes and you're uncovering things, it's going to take longer than a month. And the only people that could pull that off are Democrats, because they never had a crime. They had to manufacture it.
Wow. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Bongino's official X account as a deputy director of FBI tweeted it, or retweeted that. So it may not have even been Dan Bongino.
Yeah,
Dan Bongino,
we don't know the story.
He's not sitting on Twitter all day. He's probably leading agents, having meetings, going through documents. He's probably not running his X account. So I'm guessing he's not the one who retweeted that.
Probably not. I mean, look, I live 10 minutes from Dan. We work out at the same gym. I see him over at the gym, not anymore because he's not here, but I wish he was here now, because I'd go ask him, what the hell was that? You'd find out more information.
So have you befriended him, or what's your take on him?
I talked to him a few times at the gym. I've talked to him over the phone before. Then I see him there every now and then. I say hello to him and his girl that's there because they work out together. And then I haven't seen him there in a while, but my guess is that's because he's left to go to DC, so he's not coming all the way to Florida to work out in the mornings.
Exactly. So I want to talk about Your News. You're the founder of yournews.com, and what you're doing is something for the free press that seems very huge and important, which I'm all about. So can you explain?
Well, yes, I will. And I will tell you that I've been doing this for a very long time. Okay. So this is not like I started this a couple of weeks ago. We believed years ago that the internet was going to disrupt the media industry, and ultimately it was going to replace it. So we set out to build a platform that would replace the legacy media. Never in a million years did I think that the legacy media was lying. As a matter of fact, I was one of those people that, it had to be, I had to be hit in the head, in the back of the head, right? And it was when I have a partner that says the legacy media is lying. I'm like, why would they lie? But it turns out she was right. And when I figured it out, it was when Trump got elected the first time in 2016, and everybody just turned on him. And that's when I realized, this is all just manufactured. So, that's what I realized. What I did was extremely important, because if you have, a government controlled media, you got big problems, because obviously, still to this day, it's all politically controlled, right? I mean, there's six institutions that control the legacy media, and everybody's seen the Sinclair Broadcasting videos where they're all saying the same thing at the same time. You have to know that came from one guy. It wasn't an accident that 30 markets were all saying the same thing. So that has got to go. And we need a media that is fair and balanced, where both sides could be heard, where free speech can prevail, where you don't have somebody like Jeffrey Epstein, who is providing children to the elites, right? Our political elites and our leaders across the world. And then those stories get suppressed because the higher ups call and say, don't run that story. I mean, that's wrong on every level. You know it, and I know it, right? So does everybody listening. So we need to make sure that this never happens again. And what I'm doing will ultimately replace the legacy media, and it will be a free speech platform. And just for your audience, what I am is a daily newspaper, but I do multimedia. So I do audio, video, and print, but I'm local in every city in the United States. So when you log into yournews.com, your provider tells me where you live. If you have some kind of blocker that, VPN or something, you put in your zip code, it'll take you to Chicago, Phoenix, Tampa, LA, Miami. So it's going to look like any news website. I just have massive scale. So what does yours say up at the top? I can't see it.
Mine says Cheney, Kansas.
So change your location.
I'm in Texas right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So change your location.
Awesome. And then it'll be localized.
Yeah, do it.
You're okay. So change location right now.
Just put in your zip.
Okay.
Okay, now
Houston,
it
Texas.
says Houston, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it looks the same, right? Because national news is national news. If you mouse over national news at the top of the page, you're going to see all the different categories: sports, business, politics, right? Everybody reads what they want. Big deal. Here's what is a big deal. See where it says local edition? Click local edition or mouse over it and then click top stories, which should be straight down from you.
Okay.
So this is like front page of local.
Oh, we got our Texas governor. Okay.
And if you scroll down the page, it's going to be either state or some local stuff, Houston stuff. Isn't that cool?
Yes.
It's not a feed coming from somebody else. This is all our independent journalists.
You said you just hired 300 citizen journalists.
Yeah, this is over the last 3 or 4 months. We picked up 305 or 4 or something like that.
Nice. Yeah. So citizen journalists everywhere across America.
Pretty much. I mean,
to your website.
Yeah, I also do a lot with student journalists, because just on LinkedIn Navigator alone, there's 180,000 student journalists, and why they're on there, I have no idea. This is a business website. So if you have almost 200,000 people on there, then you know damn well there's way more that aren't on there. So where are these kids going to get a job, Ivory? We're think about it. You have, let's say there's 500,000 kids in journalism school that get out this year. Who's hiring?
Right. I just talked to a corporate news anchor yesterday who was remarking about how empty his newsroom is because they've been on a multi-year hiring freeze. So the corporate news is struggling.
Oh, they're all but done. Look, here's what I'm going to tell you. This is an absolute fact. The average age of the cable news viewer is 70 years old. That's also for terrestrial radio. Okay. Which I grew up watching cable news. Okay. That's just the way we consumed information, but the younger generation doesn't. There's still a demand for news. It's just how people consume it has changed. So all we did was create a scalable model that has a real revenue model behind it. and the ability to be able to have, I'm guessing just in the US, we'll probably have 1 million news reporters, 1 million content creators. Because remember, I'm very broad. If you moused over, local news, you're going to see faith, human interest, home and garden. You're going to see, lifestyle section, all these different categories: boxing, hockey, soccer, baseball, basketball. So you as a journalist know that you have a specific passion for a specific topic. Some people like to write about, they like to be movie critics. Some people like to go to the theater and write a review. Some people like to go to restaurants and write restaurant reviews. We have a food and wine section. So my point is, we could localize everything, because all news is either going to be city, county, market, which is by television DMA, state, regional, or national. So I could make your kid's Little League game appear in the sports section in Houston, while the high school football game goes to the sports section for the Houston market, which could be 20 counties, while the Monday Night Football game, which is still sports news, gets distributed national. Makes sense?
That's nice. But
Okay.
So it all depends on how many citizen journalists are in my city and what they want to cover in the city, right?
Sure. And some people will write about the governor, which runs statewide. And then we have, like, in a nutshell, the way the news business works is people that have news will send a press release to the media. So if you're a church in Houston and you're having a bake sale at your local church, somebody from the church sends a press release to the newspaper and the radio and the TV stations. If you live in Miami, they send it to the media in Miami. So news organizations aggregate all that information, and then they decide what they're going to air or publish. I'm an aggregator of the identical content. We just have the ability to print it all because it costs me nothing, and we can organize it by subject and geography.
Nice. So, okay.
Yeah.
How do the citizen journalists get paid if they, and are there assignments, or do they send you their reports at their own discretion?
They do it at their own discretion, at least for now, because my platform works very similar to YouTube. Everybody knows how YouTube works, where they have a monetization model. And so if, 25 years ago, if you didn't like what the media was saying, you couldn't do anything about it. But with technology today, you can become your own broadcaster. Matter of fact, we're on one right now, right? So this is not on Fox or CNN or ABC. We're broadcasting on either YouTube or Rumble or alternative news, right? So our model works where, let's say we take an out-of-work news reporter in Chicago, and they like to cover high school sports. So they write a story about the high school football game. We publish that content to the sports section in the Chicago area. And what they do is they share it on their social media pages to the people who follow them, because and then every time it gets clicked, we sell the ads. They get a percentage of the ad revenue.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Okay, so it's, by the way, YouTube's the same way. I mean, if nobody watches your show, you make nothing. If 1 million people watch it, you're rich.
Right.
So it's really up to the content creator to produce better content. But the most important piece is the market decides who's going to make it and who's not going to make it.
Love that. Free markets at work.
It's called free markets. Exactly. I'm sure we're going to have people complaining about it. Well, how come he makes more than me? Because he's better. Right. It's the only reason.
Write a more interesting story, you guys.
Exactly. And you could look, I see it. I see all the content coming in. I could see people who, this was just horrible, right? But we'll still print it, and it goes to that market. But then you'll have some that are just, you're like, oh my God, this guy's good. Right. And these are kids. Some of them are actually kids. So it's not just kids. I picked up 2 days ago somebody that is a Fox News correspondent on a DC that lost their job. And then this morning I woke up and I had somebody fill out the application. I don't remember where they were though, but this guy's he's a world news correspondent, but a war correspondent with the Marines.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, but they have nowhere to go. This is the whole point, is there's literally 500,000 people on LinkedIn that call themselves freelance journalists. For those of you who don't know what that is, that means I don't have a job. Okay. None of them do. And then all these students coming out of school. So I like to focus on the students just because, for starters, I don't think they were part of the problem, right? They were in school. Number two, I think we can mold them and teach them how to do this properly.
And that ties in with my course,
That's what I'm thinking.
freepresscourse.com, training up independent journalists so that when you put a story together, it's going to get all the clicks because you know what you're doing. You're making a compelling report and you're doing accurate news and learning how to monetize it. That's amazing.
Yeah, Ivory, this couldn't be a better time for these student journalists that are in school. And, you know, at first I used to think, who the hell's going to hire these kids? And I went, you are, idiot. Okay, you're the one that's going to do it. Because normally the way things work is the old guard on any industry is never part of the new, right? Like, you know, there used to be something called a telegraph, but you haven't sent one because some guy created this. And now you're using phones. And there used to be people who rode in horse and buggies, but when was the last time you got in one? You didn't, because somebody created an automobile, right? And there's an evolution. Well, it's always new people that do this. The old guard never can't see the forest through the trees, right? It's the same thing with the legacy media. They're still focused on what they're doing until they fall off the cliff. They're never going to be able to survive. So what's going to replace it is going to be a platform like mine, most likely global, a hyper local news platform. Remember, like, I'm in the process of opening up Canada right now, and I'm only doing it because they need help. I plan on doing it anyway, but I have a lot of contributors in Canada and they're all pushing me. They're like, we need some help. We need a free speech platform. So I said, look, I'll get it up. You will still carry the U.S. news there because I'm sure it's relevant to some degree, but let them pump the state stuff or the national stuff, and then the local stuff could come from the local people.
Oh, that'd be huge, because I feel like Rebel News is all they have.
That's all they have.
Which is a great platform, but the rest of the media there, I think, is funded and therefore controlled by the government.
Completely, yeah. And they don't have any First Amendment to back them up. So basically, the government says there is no free speech and we'll arrest you if you say the wrong thing.
Well, hopefully your journalists up there stay safe then.
Oh my God. I just said to somebody, I said, you know, I'm going to be hated in Canada, and they're probably going to turn off my IP there, which means everybody has to use the VPN to get on. But I don't care.
Word.
I mean, you shouldn't be treating people like this, right? I mean, there should be free flow of information. People need to be informed, but they've had state control press there forever. Of course, so have we. Some of us were a little blind to it, but we've had state control press here too, right? So it's about time it changes. And I think once you shed light on all the crimes that have been happening, I think the world's going to end up becoming a better place, you know? So we're going to go through our hiccups. There's going to be a lot of people pissed off at what we're doing. And when I say we, not me, I'm the platform. Okay. So I always tell people I'm not in the news business. I'm in the platform business, right? I don't play football. I just built the stadium. You guys are playing. I just sell the tickets and the hot dogs and the beers, right? That's what I do. I just built the playing field for everybody to play. So it's definitely important that we win no matter what.
Amen.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the good news is there's nobody doing this. So we have an opportunity to become the next mainstream media. And that is, to me, the most important thing. Look, I live in this world too. And I have to tell you, the last 4 years, could you imagine if Kamala Harris got in? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, they would have completely erased anything that's alternative news.
Yeah. That would have been scary. I mean, so we learned in the pandemic, especially, that we had a lot less free press than we thought we did. I think the difference is that the media, there's a special interests in America that cause these corporations that used to be free press to slowly give away their freedom and say, okay, we'll be chummy with you, government. Okay, we'll just be totally in bed with you, government. And but the difference is it's not illegal in America to have free press. So while the big outlets that we depended on became compromised and handed away their freedom, we still have that big opening for a free press. And that's where you're coming in, and me and my students, and we're filling that void.
Exactly.
And it's critical that we do that now after what we just saw with the pandemic, because there's always going to be efforts to take away freedom and have more control. People are It's the nature of humans. They're power hungry. And so we just have to have as many free press journalists out there to shed light when it happens next time. Imagine if we had this many citizen journalists when the pandemic hit, how many people would have been filling in the gaps on what's really going on with this and helping people to not buy this government lockstep narrative that we saw. And the more people that don't buy the narrative, the more people are just going to stand their ground against it, and there will be no power from the government to take our freedoms away. So I think it's critical what you're doing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And what you're doing, and you have a bunch of people that are journalists, right? So all I am is distribution and monetization. That's it. There's only two things journalists want: distribution and monetization, right? The thing about me is I'm local in every city in the United States with all the different categories. So I really have people that they're movie critics, right? Theater critic. I mean, they write about whatever it is that they love. And so I was told by a lot of journalists that if they did get a job, maybe they liked writing about fashion, but they're next thing you know, they're writing business news or they're writing about the stock market. They don't even have any idea what the hell it is, right? So this allows people to be able to work on things they're passionate about.
That's perfect. I love that. Okay, so it's yournews.com, and you've got you got a page on the website for people to sign up to contribute to your site.
So if somebody's interested in becoming a citizen journalist, there's an application you fill out. So if you go to the bottom, you're already there. So she got that at the bottom of the page. There's something that says become a citizen journalist.
There you go.
Right there at the bottom. And then it takes you to this page, couple of videos. One's for student journalists, one's me speaking. And then what you do is if you like what you hear, you fill out the application. It comes into us. We look at it to make sure that there's no nut jobs that are filling this thing out. So people have to add their social media. We'd like to take a look at that. I'm not interested in suppressing the left, but what I'm not interested in is somebody that, maybe doing nefarious things, that we don't want. So I don't mind if somebody's opinion is completely the opposite of mine. We will still publish it in opinions. Because to me, if you're going to be a free speech platform, everybody should be able to have a voice, but the marketplace is going to decide. And look, not all the right ideas are good and not all the left ideas are bad. But I think if you could have center right and center left, I think that from that, you'll get some good ideas will spawn, but ultimately the public's going to decide which way that they want to go. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love that. Well, I love what you're creating. Great to talk about it. And everyone go check out yournews.com. This is Sam Anthony, the founder. Great talking to you.
All right. You too. Thank you, Ivory.